Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. It's promptly 1 p.m. Eastern Time here. Our topic today is accounting and payroll exporting reports. Church Windows users often need to export reports for a number of reasons, right? Maybe they want to better customize the report in another program, like maybe Microsoft Excel. I'm going to be using OpenOffice today, but its functionality is very similar. Maybe, or they want to simply export the report as a PDF file for a committee meeting or to attach to an email, all right, to send off in advance of maybe an upcoming meeting. But no matter the reason, reports can easily be exported from accounting and payroll. Frankly, folks, they can be exported the same way from all the modules in the Church Windows program, okay? It's the same in accounting as it is in payroll, as membership, as donations, etc. Okay, it's what I like to call software or program conventions, meaning the functionality is the same in all of the modules of the software, meaning it's not different in payroll versus in accounting. It's the same. So once you learn how to export the reports in either payroll or accounting, you'll have the same ability to export reports in membership and or donations or anywhere else in the program. Okay, now, before we go into the detail of the exporting of the reports and the functionality for that, I just want to point out, when we go into accounting, what we're not really doing much to cover today is I'm going to basically talk about them briefly, is here under reports and export. We have this option up here at the very top. Let me get out my highlighter, friend, right here, called export, okay? That is essentially, folks, some specific export functions that we have. And if we click on that, we notice a menu comes up: chart of accounts data, accounts payable data, essentially, or accounts receivable. Okay. This is not these are some specific export files about specific information in Church Windows accounting that you can export. Notably, chart of accounts data is literally just that. It's the chart of accounts with the balance for each month in either a CSV or text file format, typically, okay? Accounts payable is basically reports of your accounts payable vendors, and accounts receivable is information about your accounts receivable clients, okay? Names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, tax ID information if applicable, anything to do with your accounts payable vendors or your accounts receivable clients. But these are essentially not a report, okay? If I do a chart of accounts data, it asks me, what year do I want? So I don't have to change the year back, in Church Windows accounting to get this. If I say I want my chart of accounts data for 24, I can bring in a custom account group to bring in specific accounts if I want. But simply now, if I click export, okay, it now just does its gyrations and brings up my traditional export or send via email. This is really kind of old portion of the software. But right here under my export document, if I click the down arrow, here are the 4 file formats that I can export this data as in or using, okay? The check mark is telling us that it's defaulting to CSV or comma separated value file, but I can choose any one of them, okay? Unlike the other export functions in the software where I have maybe other half a dozen other options for export file options, these are limited. It is literally just that. It is just an export file. I can't even preview the data at this point, okay? So if I leave it as CSV file and click on that, it opens up some export options. I have no reason to, it's a comma text separator. I don't have any reason to change any of this. Then it requires that I save it, okay? So I could call this, COA data or something. And then click Save. Now when it says, do I want to open the file? I click Yes. Now I have to choose the application that I'm wanting to open it in. So in this case, we could choose OpenOffice. I can try OpenOffice Calc. I don't know what that would do, but that might do it. Yeah, it's opening it here. All right, so it's opening me in the delimiter. It's separated by space, but I can change that to comma. and try to click OK, and that should open that, I hope. Yeah, there it is. So there's my assets, my fund name, my account name, account number. I mean, my entire chart of accounts is listed here in, for 2024. And over here further to the right, I've got each one of my months for the account balance, January activity, May, February, March, April, all there, and then beginning balance, okay? So again, just a essentially basic chart of accounts data for the chart of accounts itself, okay? And honestly, the other file formats under our export, like accounts payable, it allows me to be able to choose which vendors I want to export. Notice it says if no vendor payees are selected, then all vendor payees will export. So maybe I want that, okay? So if I do export all, okay, it's going to open up a very similar window and ask me, what do I want? Now we're back to our normal options for sure, text, CSV, Excel, XLSX, but I've also not got now image, RTF, MHT, HTML, and PDF document, okay? So I can choose those. Now we're sort of shifting into what we're going to be seeing more of when we are exporting our reports here, okay? The only difference in this, of course, is my accounts receivable clients is bringing in my AR client information. But if I, again, do something similar, like if I choose Excel or XLSX and click OK, save it, I could call it whatever I want, save. Now, what do I want to open it? It's opening it in Open Office, but it's basically my vendors, with address, city, state, zip, phone, basically just accounts payable, vendor data as entered. If there is no data entered, then it would just be, the field would be blank. I would just be showing payee name, maybe account name and what have you, okay? So again, not Church Windows, for all intents and purposes, folks, has no data dump. It's a really, really, really big program, database program, and there is no way to basically just take all the data in Church Windows and just export it as one file. First of all, it would just be too big to do that. But it's different databases, right? Membership, donations, accounting, payroll, they're all different databases, but none of the modules individually have one giant data dump either way, okay? You can piece part out the information, you could get it out, but there's, and especially if you've got multiple, like say accounting or payroll years, right? Payroll, a little more flexible because there is nothing that separates one payroll year from the other. It's just basically one line in time, similar for donations. But accounting, every year's chart of accounts is technically separate, so you could export multiple or different accounting years separately, but I can't get them all simultaneously. Okay, so that's the key, is just understanding Church Windows has a no single file data dump from the accounting or any other of the modules independently. And you would have to do them as separate databases, even if you could from membership, donations, or something like that, okay? All right, so we get requests for exporting the reports a lot. I mean, we understand Church Windows reports, while we try to protect the data that you create in the software, we admittedly say, okay, maybe our treasurer's report doesn't offer the information that your folks are wanting, or maybe in the layout or the format that you want, right? Or you want to export the report as a PDF document to, again, send maybe as part of an email to your finance committee or trustees or something before an upcoming meeting, all right? So Church Windows can do that, all right? That's true from payroll or accounting. So let's use our treasurer's report as an example, all right? So we go up here to reports and export, financial. I choose treasurer's report. I make my selections for what I'm wanting for the treasurer's report. Let's say my committee meeting is coming up for the previous month of February, so I'm going to choose month February. I'm not going to include accounts with zero balances. I might include inactive accounts, just in case. Probably if I have any, they hopefully wouldn't have any activity anyway, but I'm going to make my selections. Now, if down here in the bottom right corner, again, we've got our export button, right? Right here, he said with his poorly drawn arrow. or circle, is that similar functionality to what we had just seen when we were exporting the data. When I click on that, it brings up my, do I want to export the document or do I want to send via email? All right, so I can click the down arrow and here are my file formats. What this doesn't do is it doesn't allow me to see if the information on the report is what I want. Okay, so I'm a big fan of saying, you know what, I want to print the report, I want to look at it, I want to make sure it includes the information that I want. Okay, so I'm glad I did. I go to account number, I got account name, period activity, year-to-date, annual budget remaining. Maybe maybe there's a column I'm missing, so I can now close out, go back to my columns tab. Maybe I can now put over my, say, monthly budget, and then I'm going to put that adjacent to my period activity because that corresponds with the months that I'm selecting versus year-to-date and annual. Okay, so once I've added that, I'm going to go to print again. Again, verify that the report is what I want. In this case, yes, it is what I'm wanting on the report now. Okay, so then up here we notice I've got my export button or email like I had on those other screens, on that other little screen. Here is where the down arrow again comes up and I can have, it defaults to a PDF document, okay, but our other options are available. That's HTML if you want to publish the document on a website, or a rich text format, or Excel or XLSX or CSV text document, or even a graphic document, okay, a photo essentially, okay. You choose, folks. I mean, if you're just wanting to be able to attach the document to an email maybe, or save it and attach it to an email, maybe PDF document is the way to go, right? No, folks don't have the ability to edit PDF documents without like Adobe, the full version of Adobe Acrobat, okay? So maybe portable document format is the way to go for that, all right? If you're wanting to, the Excel or XLSX. We get this, folks, question a lot. Teresa's asking, what is an MHT document? Honestly, Teresa, I'd have to look that up. I don't even know. I'm not sure I've ever had anybody ask me about that. So that's a good question. But I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry. We can Google that, find that out. But Excel documents in Excel, XLSX are basically which version of Excel are you using? Excel representing typically older versions of the Excel file, XLSX more recent versions. I think, I forget what year, where that line was drawn. Here's the thing, folks, and this is true on all of the formats, or when all of them are choosing, when we choose either Excel format, is there's a whole lot of formatting that goes into that that's already included in that. Unless you're really super skilled in Excel, becomes really, really hard to kind of bust through that and maybe make that work for you, okay? But we can, okay? CSV or text documents can also be imported into Excel, or in my case into OpenOffice, okay, and imported, but they don't have all that extra formatting put onto it that these other two Excel formats do. But the data's still there. It's just in a simpler, easier to manipulate file format rather than all the formatting that comes with those Excel layouts, okay? But sure, if I want to go to Excel, I'll choose Excel document, okay? It says, okay, I have no reason to change anything here, all right? I could choose text is fine on that. Click OK. Again, it requires me to save it. So Treasurer's Report as of February 25, perfect. Click Save. Do I want to open the file? I click Yes. Here it's opening my OpenOffice, and there is my Treasurer's Report in Excel, or in this case, OpenOffice, okay? You can make sure, folks, that of course that on your local computer, you can go in and set the setting to set your default programs to be associated with specific file extensions. So you could go into your computer and say, okay, for a dot or an XLS file, I want it to open in Excel, or in a text file or CSV to open in Excel too. You do have that ability and control and the ability to do that on your computer. But here now, notice it does have a lot of formatting on it. All the columns are fixed and set, and the rows are kind of all formatted here. It might be just easier to do it in a text or CSV file. All right. So I'm going to close out of there. But exporting reports is literally that simple. So if I now go down here and I choose, say, text or CSV, CSV or comma separated value documents, not so good suited for things dealing with monetary figures. Why? Because if each one of the fields are separated by a comma, this amount right here in the middle of 5746.18, right, for my period activity could be interpreted as $5 in one field and 746.18 in another. Now, it doesn't happen very often, but it could. All right, so typically CSV file, not as good or favorable for dealing with monetary figures, okay, or monetary reports. So we might choose a text file, text document instead. I can still import it, okay, into Excel or OpenOffice or anything else. Click OK. It's going to require I save it. I'm saving it in Documents. I can edit the file name here if I want. Treasurer's report as of February 25 is fine, but it is a text document. Click Save. But I think this is still going to open in OpenOffice again like I do. It's not, because I have it associated with Notepad. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter now because I've got the document saved as a text file. I can now go into OpenOffice and I can open that report. Okay, so right here I go to OpenOffice, and you can do the same thing, folks, in Excel, other programs. If I go to Open, okay, and I'm now going to go to Documents and my Treasurer's report as of there's my text document. Click Open. It's opening it, and there it is. Okay, so I can now manipulate this in my other program, Excel or whatever it is, and in this case OpenOffice, and manipulate it any way I want now. Okay, and that's true whether it's Excel or not. Okay, any other program. And with just a couple minutes left, folks, I want to point out, because this is one of the things that we have not really done this much, is we want to show how the reporting conventions are the same. So if we go into Church Windows Payroll, we go up to Reports, right here, on Employee Contractor Reports or Pay Period Reports. So let's say I want to send a, say, history report for my federal taxable earnings, withholdings, and net pay detail report to my treasurer, say, for the first quarter. I can go in here and change my date range to March 31st. Okay, I can set it to whatever date range I want. I can choose to include which employees I want to include, which I don't. Down here in the bottom right corner, again, as with my other reports, I've got my export button where I can just open that right up and export it. Or, like I say, I prefer to print the report to ensure that it includes the totals that I need and want. So it does detail all of my pay dates for the first quarter, grand totals for everything that I'm wanting. Let's get rid of my drawing down here. And if I scroll right, it shows my net pay amounts, my everything to do with my earnings for the first quarter. All right. And if I go right, including a summary down here, of course, and right up here under my reports at the top, I've got all of my options, again, from PDF document to Excel to CSV, text document, you name it. Okay. Same options everywhere I go. All right. So let's say I did want to email it to somebody or to my committee. Maybe I'll choose PDF document, click OK. I'm going to save it again. Federal taxable earnings for first quarter, 2025, save. Assuming I've got Adobe Reader here, I click OK. Oh, and it doesn't look like I do. So if I did have Adobe Reader, I could open that, folks, but it's not. So I could try opening it in something else. I'm not sure how that would go. But I don't have Adobe here, so I would probably want to go back and maybe look at exporting it as another option, like CSV or text or Excel. Okay? So if I do CSV, okay, save, open file, yes. It is a comma separated file, click OK. And there, where is my report? Oh, scrolling left to right here. There we go. So here it's showing the breakdown of each one of those pay dates, just like it did on the report, with the various columns spread out across the page horizontally. And I can now manipulate it here, well, in this case, in OpenOffice any way I want, or Excel, whatever you prefer. Folks, the reason why I'm using OpenOffice is we are a Microsoft reseller. If I were to have Excel installed on here, I have to pay a license for Microsoft for that. We can essentially show you the same effects that it would have in Excel right here using the OpenOffice. So, but you can explore that as well if you need to. Okay. But I did want to show that any reports in payroll, doesn't matter what it is, folks, the pay period deductions report, right up here in the bottom, I've got export, and when I go to print, I've still got those same options for exporting those reports, okay? So play with those exporting of the reports. It's really helpful and really handy. If you have questions, please reach out to us.